Hi, everybody. Oh, this is Ron MacCloskey, and I am so happy to be here. I write, I produce, I direct. I got so many things going on. I have hobbies that I've turned into professions and to businesses, and it's so wonderful. It is my honor and my pleasure to be here right now on the Jim Master Show. Go!
What a great warm-up act, Ron. I loved it. That was fantastic.
Now, let me ask you, is that you also drawing? Are you also an artist?
That actually was done by a dear friend who is a renowned illustrator. And when we were changed, we had an original open when we started the series, 5+ years ago now. And we were looking to change things up. So I was searching for a perfect theme song for the show, something that, is fun and lively, energetic, but, contemporary, modern. And I said, hey, we want to create something and maybe we can create a logo for the show. So he worked on a lot of different designs for us. And then he said retro was big at this point. So designed the logo for us. And we got he's normally would be super expensive, but we got the family and friends rate. So that was very generous and designed it. And then we needed it to pop out of the screen because he's an illustrator. So he said his daughter happens to be an animator working on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. She could take that illustration and make it an animation. So he's designed all of the Betty Boops for the last 25 years plus that is involved in the Betty Boop Broadway play. The same guy designed our logo. And so that is him actually doing a sketch of the Jim Master Show in the beginning. Because the giveaway for people that know me personally, if you look, it's his right. He's doing it with his right hand, and I'm left-handed. So he made the sketch, and I actually have a copy of that finished product that he's sketching with the I Dream a Genie bottle, which we have over here. And so he put that all together. They're two separate elements, and we took that sketch that he did, which was a totally separate thing, and then paired it with the animated open, and then married it with the music, and there is the open for the Jim Master Show. Everybody seems to really like it. Sometimes people, I can see them in the little broadcast queue window and they're going like this when the music comes on. I'm like, good. We've had record producers, composers, and others who are like, people have composed symphonies and they're going like this to the Jim Master Show theme, which is awesome.
Wow.
Ron, it's so great to have you here. I want to let folks know.
I know that I'm here for you to interview me, but you say things and it sparks my interest. So I'm not aware of the I Dream a Genie bottle. So can you fill me in on that? Are you a collector? Do you collect things?
Well, I'm a TV person, so, working in television and radio professionally and all. So I have a lot of different things that are tied into television and film. This is the actual I Dream a Genie bottle. It's a hand-painted replica, but it was a limited signed edition that a friend of mine gifted me on a birthday when she realized I was always a fan of the series and Barbara Eden and the whole thing. So this was a gift. And then Dream of Denver, who is Bob Denver's wife, as we celebrate 60 years of Gilligan's Island. She's been a guest several times. She's a dear friend of our show. She sent me the Gilligan bobblehead doll, which is right there. Which is signed, Love, Dream of Denver. And it was really terrific. And so, we've had Don Full of Love from, I think it's Back to the Future and other great movies. He sent me the the Mayor Goldie Wilson bobblehead doll. It's really fantastic.
Wow.
So people have sent things along. And yeah, so I still have all the Matchbox cars, all the baseball cards from childhood.
Holy
Still have
cow.
all the Yankees and Mets scorecards and
Wow.
yearbooks and all. And got gifted by my father the Brooklyn Dodger baseball cards and cutouts. He big Brooklyn
Holy
Dodger
cow.
fan and was a big fan and collector when he was a kid. And he gave the collection to me, which is fantastic.
Oh,
So,
that's great.
yeah, I like all kinds of stuff like that. And Boris Karloff, Frankenstein, and so much more. You are amazing. I want to let everybody know that our guest, we're talking about Boris Karloff. Yes, and there's so much to talk about. We can do a mini series, but this gentleman was involved in a spectacular documentary, a really well produced, beautifully shot, edited. The music, the way it is lovingly told, the people that they brought in to talk about experiences and their thoughts, and people that have been involved in different things and productions. It's so well done. It's so beautifully done, and it's available to watch. And I wholeheartedly suggest you watch it because there's so much to learn about this iconic British actor, this extraordinary performer, Boris Karloff, who most know as, Frankenstein from the movie Frankenstein, but at the same time, he was in so many other things. And did you know he was also the voice of the Grinch? And how the Grinch stole Christmas. That is Boris Karloff, for those of you who don't look at the credits at the end of things, but so much more. And this fine gentleman, who is himself a brilliant writer, a producer, stand-up comedian, performer. He's got a whole thing he does on the Catskills and the Borscht Belt, Buddy Hackett and Phyllis Diller and that whole crowd, and Alan King and all those folks that always spent time in the Catskills. And he's a stand-up comedian as well, but he's a lover of cinema and Boris and so much more. Ron MacCloskey, coming to us from New Jersey, USA. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jim. Anyway, yeah, just to let you know, the movie is on Shudder and I think Tubi, but you can get your own copy. So it's on DVD and it's also on Blu-ray. And I'll tell you what happened with this. You were talking about collecting and having things. Well, I started when I was 7 years old. In 1962, the Aurora Model Company put out the Monster Model series. The first model they put out was Frankenstein. I got that. I fell in love with it. And I just started collecting. Of course, in the 1960s, you also had the monster movies laid on TV. I grew up in the New York area, so our host was John Zackerly. And then you also had famous Monsters of Filmland, the magazine, on the newsstands. So I was surrounded by the monsters, and I just fell in love. I started collecting, and here's the thing unique about me than other kids. I never threw anything out. I now have over 1,000 items in my collection, and I am so glad and so grateful that I gravitated to this. So I first gravitated towards the monster movies, and then through the magazines, I learned more about the actors and about the people that played the monsters. And I was immediately drawn to Boris Karloff. And I was so affected by his performance. Now, when I was 13 years old, I read that he was sick in the hospital. They had put the address of the hospital in the newspaper. I wrote him a fan letter. Thought I'd never hear back, but sure enough, I did. I got a beautiful card from him saying that he was fully recovered from his sickness and he was going back to work. I kept the card and the envelope. It was dated October 1968, and Mr. Karloff died February 1969. Sarah Karloff, his daughter, has confirmed that that's his signature, and some collectors say that that alone is worth $10,000. But it doesn't matter to me. It's my collectible. It's what I love. I kept the scrapbook of everything, and I just fell in love with everything. I mean, I started a monster club when I was a kid, and I made monster movies when I was a kid. I remade Frankenstein, but because our Super 8 camera, I couldn't see exactly what was being shot, so it came out as Rankenstein. The F fell off. Then we did The Curse of the Invisible Man, and I'll tell you, it was wonderful. About 1973, there was the first convention that I heard of. It was the famous Monsters Convention in New York City. I went. They had Christopher Lee No, I'm sorry, not Christopher, Peter Cushing, and Star Wars had just come out, so that was a real big deal. And I remember I met him and Peter Lorre's daughter,
Oh,
and I
wow.
said, "Wow, this is great." And then again, I just fell in love. So I started going conventions over and over and over again. There's a huge convention in New Jersey called Chiller.
Chiller,
Chiller
yeah.
Theater Expo. Yeah, it's run by Kevin Clement. I have gone to every single convention since it started. So I think that's like 30 years. I had a chance to meet Zachary. I had a chance to meet Sarah Karloff. And it was great. I mean, you meet old TV stars, old movie stars. I met Marianne from Gilligan's Island.
Oh,
She was there.
yeah. Dawn Wells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I in 1997, I got a movie camera and I said, you know what? I'm going to make a movie about Boris Karloff. So that was over 25 years ago. And I
Wow.
sat down with Sarah and I said, I really want to do this film. I don't think a good documentary has been done. And she was wonderful. She smiled, said, okay, well, good luck. I just started
That's
interviewing
it.
everybody. And what I would do, and I
The
don't know
fact
whether
that you even were able to connect with her, which is amazing.
well, it was because of this convention. I mean, I never would have been able to go out to California and find her. But no,
Right.
she and again, she came to connect with the fans and to talk to people.
Isn't
So
it, she celebrates her dad. She celebrates
yeah,
and appreciates the fans and understands the fans. We
right.
had, who's become a dear friend of our show, Ann Serling on, Rod Serling's daughter, a couple of times, and she's amazing. And she celebrates with honor her dad's legacy as well. So it's really nice to see when the children of these celebrities, because to them, it's dad, it's father, right? Or
Right.
mother. To us, it's these legendary people, but to hear their perspective in terms of how they revere their parent, but at the same time, they also appreciate, the legacy that is there. And obviously Sarah does for her father, Boris Karloff, and you got a chance to witness and experience that, which is very cool, huh?
She started in the early 1990s, and believe it or not, from the 70s to the 90s, there really weren't people out there representing these horror stars. So there weren't a second or third generation to say, "Hey, this is my father and my mother's legacy, and I want to make sure I control what's going on and what's being done and copyrights and whatever." So no, she really wanted to go out there to meet the fans, to find out what's going on, and it really made a difference. And of course, so many people have done that after that. Lon Chaney's grandson, I think, is out there. Vincent Price's daughter is out there. And there are so many, as well as the original people. I mean, Leave It to Beaver. He goes to these conventions and you can meet Beaver.
Oh,
So it's
yes, we've
great.
had
And
him. Jerry
people from my
Mathers,
one, yep, Jerry Mathers and all these
Stanley
different people.
Livingston.
I mean, sometimes, and this is my own personal opinion, sometimes it's sad to see some of these people because they get so old and you have a certain image in your mind about them, I mean, again, I mean,
You know
it
who's
is what it is.
stunning is Barbara Eden. We got a chance to chat with her
Right.
about a year ago, and 91, I think 92 now, and just stunning, beautiful inside and out. She
Yeah.
really tremendous. Stephanie Powers as well, and Anne Margaret also. They've stopped by the show, but just beautiful inside and out. And now Stephanie Powers was a part of this as well, of the documentary.
Yeah, well, what Karloff did, and his career was vast. It was amazing. But in the 1960s, he ended up appearing on variety shows, on quiz shows, and he was on a lot of these hour dramas. So he was on I Spy, Wild Wild West, and he was on The Girl from U.N.C.L.E., not The Man from U.N.C.L.E., but The Girl from U.N.C.L.E., and it had Stephanie Powers. And in that particular episode, Robert Vaughn was on too. And here's the best part, Jim. He played Mother Muffin. So he did the whole episode in drag, and he just had a great time. And she loved being with him because, again, back at that time period in the 60s, they used to like to take old stars and put them on TV shows. So you had people, very, very famous people that would appear on different programs as older people, but they would appear on these current programs, and people loved it. People loved to see it. So, so she knew Boris Karloff. She had a great time. She's in her documentary, and she tells stories about working with him, and it was great. So, I had a list of people that I knew worked with Karloff, knew Karloff, were still around, and wanted to tell stories about him. And Stephanie was one of them.
They're really incredible. And again, the work that was done to put this together is absolutely extraordinary. You learn something more about him, the American British documentary film about the life and career of English actor Boris Karloff, known for the roles in the horror films too, and written and directed, co-produced by you and Thomas Hamilton. And it features all of these incredible interviews that you have with Sarah Karloff, his daughter, and Leonard Maltin and Joe Dante, Christopher Plummer, Peter Bogdanovich, Ron Perlman, John Landis, Dick Miller, so many others, which is absolutely extraordinary. And this, again, a real passion project. What do you think it is about William Henry Pratt, known as Boris Karloff, who, what do you think it is about him that still fascinates people today? And of course, some might not realize he was also billed occasionally as Karloff the Uncanny. What do you think the fascination is about Boris, even today, which is amazing to see all these years later?
Well, he is really a great study for anybody that wants to be an actor. He wanted to be an actor as a young child. Most of his family was in the government service, and he had no desire at all to do that. And when he was old enough, he decided to leave England and to pursue acting. And he wanted to see if he could do it. And he purposely changed his name, I think, for a couple reasons. Number one, I don't think he wanted to shame his family if he didn't do well. And I think he wanted to start all over again and be a brand new person. So he went from England, he went to Canada, which is an unusual choice, worked across Canada, doing manual labor, working very hard, digging ditches and planting trees and whatever, but then also acting. And he learned how to act for 10 years solid on stage from nothing. Never did Shakespeare, never took acting lessons, but learned on his own and got better and better and better. From there, he went all the way to Vancouver in Canada. Then he went down to San Francisco around the early 1900s. And somebody said, hey, there's a new thing going on south of us called moving pictures. Why don't you try that? Went down there. He had a ball. He loved working in silent films because he used to say, when the sun was up, you worked. When the sun went down, you went home. And then sound came in and they worked all hours of all days. But he started again from the bottom. And for 10 years, another 10 years, he learned how to act in films, from silent films to sound films. And then again, eventually Frankenstein, and believe it or not, he was 44 before Frankenstein. I mean, imagine that. Some people would have given up long before that and just said, this is not going to, he was working basically picture to picture. But he was very fortunate, got cast in Frankenstein. And literally, I don't think he ever turned a job down after that. He constantly worked. He loved to work. And he embraced his being typecast. He didn't walk away from it. He embraced it. And I think that just people love that. And he got offered so many different things, and he just rolled with the punches. So when radio came into view, he did radio. When live television came in, he was one of the very first actors to do live television. He did live television, and he had a ball. I'll tell you a great story about Broadway. About 1941, he was offered a role in Broadway, and it was a very modest man, and he thought, well, I'm a movie actor. Broadway's pretty big. And they said, no. I think you're going to like this role. It's about a murderer. And at one point in that play, they say, why did you kill that guy? And he turns around, he says, I killed him because he said I looked like Boris Karloff. Now that only gets a laugh that Boris Karloff says that. The play was called Arsenic and Old Lace, became a huge hit. And he really felt, once he had done that, he really felt that he had achieved a success as an actor. And again, from there, he just went on. He went back to Hollywood. He did more films. Then he came to New York. He did plays. And then eventually he moved back to England. He lived there for the last 10 years of his life. And of course, as you said up front, he was the voice of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And I can't believe how many people are surprised when I throw that in. They didn't even know that he was the voice of the Grinch.
Just such a perfect voice for the Grinch Stole Christmas. And also just his voice and listening to the way he spoke with the diction, the articulation, the inflection, the intrigue pulled you in, right? He just brought you right in. He could sell anything. He just had that way about him. There was a class and a dignified nature, but at the same time, he didn't care. Kind of like Lucille Ball, as far as, in a way, she was a clown's clown. She would, Desi Arnaz, I believe, said at one time that, she, one minute she could be all dressed to the nines. Next minute she could have a pie thrown in her face. And Boris had the opportunity on many occasions through many of the different projects to have those things happen as well. And really to take on that role of Frankenstein. Extraordinary, huh?
I mean, to compare him to Lucille Ball, I think is a great parallel. Because if you do look at Karloff and you don't know anything about his background, I think he was a very good looking man. He was a very attractive man. But because he was in this horror realm and he was so menacing and he was so good, nobody really looked at him as a leading man or a romantic man or something like that. But yeah, Lucille Ball, she was so beautiful. She really was the exception to the rule, where a lot of people say a woman can't be beautiful and funny at the same time. But she proved that wrong. And I think Karloff, like I said, very attractive man. And I think just had a wonderful, great career that could do so many things and worked with so many people. Just great stuff.
Really did work with a lot of different people and on a lot of different things, in addition to, and we'll talk more about Frankenstein, but like you said, so many TV shows and on talk shows and game shows. And even that moment that he was on Ralph Edwards' This Is Your Life, which I was watching it recently, and, I think he handled everything well, but it wasn't something he was very comfortable with, talking about himself and having everything showered onto him, right?
Well, here's the interesting story about that. He was good friends with Ralph Edwards, and he used to attend several programs, him and his wife, and they would watch the show and then they would go out and have dinner. So he had been to the show at least 2 or 3 times. So when Ralph Edwards says, "This is your life, Boris Karloff," if you notice the first time he just waves like he's being introduced. But then he realizes he's the subject, and he stares at his wife like, "What have you done?" and it was just great. They had so many people come out and talk so wonderful about him. And that's a tough show to do. I mean, if somebody says, "This is your life," you kind of freak out. What are they going to talk about? What are they going to say? But they did, and it was a great program, and it was great. He had a chance to meet Jack Pierce, who was the original makeup man with him on Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein and The Mummy, and it turned out to be a great program.
You mentioned the Bride of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein, and The Mummy. The Mummy is another one that he was a part of. When you look at his catalog of work, it's extraordinary. The Mummy, Before I Hang. Of course, there's Frankenstein, unbelievable. Fear Chamber, another incredible one. Targets was another good one too. That was, of course, later in his career, but that was another great one, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, a lot of people get confused. They think he said, or it's been known to say, it was my last movie that I made. It wasn't, because he made other films other than that, but it technically was his last American-made film. He didn't make another American film after that. Peter Bogdanovich, it was his directorial debut. He wrote the film, and I reached out to him, I don't know how many times, and always he was generous. Always he loved, no matter what he was doing, he would talk about Boris Karloff, and he was so grateful for what he did. If there are any fans out there that has not seen Targets, I really highly suggest it. It's an excellent film, and to me, it's the perfect last film for a guy like him to make. And when you see other actors, and again, I don't want to disparage any other actors, but if you saw what some actors did the last 10 years of their life, it's not the greatest stuff in the world.
Right.
But I think he had dignity, and I think he did some good films. But like I said, Targets was just perfect.
Absolutely. One of our viewers watching, Sue Prov, said, besides Frankenstein, and of course her favorite being The Grinch, she loved Karloff in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Oh yeah, no, I see. That's the other thing. He also, after a while, he was offered other roles, and he just wanted to stay out there. He wanted to keep working. So yeah, it's a small little part, but he is just great in that. And of course, Danny Kaye is great in that too. But it was great to once in a while see him pop up in other films as well. And to me, it was great to see him on television. I mean, to see him on a variety show like The Entertainers, he did a great skit with Carol Burnett. To see him on the Dinosaur Show and he's singing and dancing.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
Price, he was with the Red Skelton Show. Just great stuff.
You
know, great sense of humor.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, that it's good to get that information out to people, because when Anne Serling was here on our show talking about her beloved father, Rod Serling, one of the things that she said is she's always had to sort of make sure that the public at large knows that the Rod Serling they saw on screen, who was a little bit more serious and more stoic, was not at all the Rod Serling at home. He would put on clown masks. He would do piggyback rides. He was telling jokes. He was funny. He was carefree. He was loving. He was a hugger. Not just what you saw, which was what he did on television during the Twilight Zone and Night Gallery, but at home, he was this boisterous, fun-loving person. And it seems as though Boris had that side of him too, that was fun and quick-witted and rolled with the punches, whatever it was, which I think is great for people to know, because if you see him in that role, you might think, or if you came up to him and he gave you that look, you might think he's only like that. But it's great to hear that, there's this whole other side. And by doing wonderful documentaries and things that really celebrate the life of somebody legendary who's really left a mark on entertainment and society and the arts in such a grand way in so many projects, including, of course, Frankenstein, to be able to dig in deep like you guys did. What was that process like? I mean, here you are talking about somebody that's quite iconic, and I know we use that word a lot all the time, but somebody that is revered, respected, and beloved. It's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders, right? To get the story right, to get the people together and put this documentary together. And again, beautiful job to you and Thomas and everybody involved in it, Ron.
Well, yeah, here's what happened. What I would do for the last, 6 or 7 years, I would watch Turner Classic Movies and I would focus on documentaries. And at the end of the documentary, I would find out who made it, who wrote it, who directed it. So there was a wonderful documentary on, and Thomas Hamilton had done it, and it was about the guy that was in Gone with the Wind. Oh, Leslie Howard. There you go. So it was done about Leslie Howard, and it was told through his daughter. And I said, well, that's great, because in a way, that's exactly what I would like to do. I would like to have Sarah Karloff tell the story of her father. Now, the big difference is Leslie Howard hated Gone with the Wind. He did not like being in it. He didn't want to do it, but they forced him to do it. And I thought he was great. And he had a wonderful career. Unfortunately, he died mysteriously during World War II. There was a plane crash. So his career was cut short. But he was a wonderful actor. As a matter of fact, ironically, at one point, Leslie Howard was being considered to play Henry Frankenstein in Frankenstein back in 1931. And at one time, Bette Davis was going to be considered to play Elizabeth, but that never happened. So anyway, so I saw this film. I reached out, got on the internet, found Thomas Hamilton. He was in London, England, established a relationship with him, and boom, we said, good, let's do this thing. And I was so grateful that it was somebody from Europe, because I wanted to have a different take, on how he looked at things as opposed to how I looked at things. And between his contacts and my contacts, we just had so many people that wanted to be a part of this thing. And I'll tell you, it's very hard to find this, but not one person had one bad word to say about Boris Karloff. They loved him. They adored him. He was a hard worker. He was usually the first one there, last one out. And he really dedicated his work and loved working with young people. And I thought that was the key too. Loved Peter Bogdanovich. And really thought that he had a future, and really respected the director immensely. I mean, he used to say several times, oh, no, he's in charge. I will do what he says. So he was never a star, never a diva, never kind of took over. but really, really loved and respected the acting profession. So between the two of us, we put it together. We did it through Sarah Karloff, and it took a long, long time. Eventually, it came out in 2021, which was the 90th anniversary of Frankenstein.
That's
And
right.
and this year's the big year. This year's the 90th anniversary of Bride of Frankenstein.
That's
Which
right.
some people say was even better. Was better. Now Karloff did not want to speak. That was his big deal. I don't want to say any words in Bride of Frankenstein, but he did. And he had great dialogue. And some of the words he would say, like, friend, good, fire, bad. Great stuff. Great stuff.
That's such an iconic character, and that really solidified Boris's legacy in his career. I mean, he's done so much more before, during, and after, but that really solidified his career and notoriety. Wouldn't you say that was an epic experience? Because people didn't even expect that it was going to be the big thing that it turned out to be, right? It just was out there and people fell in love with it. And it came out at the right time. When it came out in 1931, it was perfect timing. People, they were seeking something a little bit different to take them away from what was going on, in reality, right? There was a whole story to how this iconic movie this film was put together, right? Right time, right place.
I mean, there's a whole backstory, how the movie got made, from James Whale being involved to the music. I mean, the music was done by Franz Waxman for Bride of Frankenstein. And just great stuff. And how Bela Lugosi actually was offered the role first and then turned it down and whatever. But, a lot of people have said, and rightly so, if you took Godfather 1 and 2 and put them together, and they've done that, and you look at Al Pacino, and they say, oh my God, look at this range. Look at how well he does. They should do the same thing with Frankenstein. I don't think they should ever show Frankenstein alone. They should show Frankenstein and then Bride of Frankenstein and put them together. And the same thing, the range of Karloff from being that innocent monster at the beginning to the end of Bride of Frankenstein, just a wonderful thing. And I'll tell you what, Jim, I mean, this guy did films like The Black Room. I don't know if you know that one, but he plays twin brothers, one nice, one evil. The Body Snatcher. He should have been nominated for an Oscar for that one.
Yes.
Yeah. He did so many great films.
And Nick Santamaria, who's a wonderful friend of our show, is watching and said, I saw a film recently called The Guilty Generation. It was 1931, and Boris played an Italian mafioso. His son played by Robert Young, and Glenn Strange played Boris's henchman. And Glenn and Boris played together 13 years before teaming in House of Frankenstein.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's great stuff.
Boris was in the original Scarface.
That's right. Yeah, Nick also adds.
Now, I don't know how big of a film nerd you are, but in Scarface, they had this wonderful little thing that every time there was a murder, you saw the letter X. So like if somebody was shot on the street, they'd pan up to the street sign. And when two signs cross each other, you see the letter X. Well, when Karloff was killed, he was killed in a bowling alley. So he rose the ball. He gets killed. It's a strike. And what do you see on the board? The X.
I love stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Great stuff. Now, he could have gone the route of being a gangster because he was in a few gangster films, but that didn't pick up as much as the horror genre.
Nick is also very big on Abbott Costello and has penned a fabulous book about their movies and everything. And he was a guest on our show with Chris Costello, Lou Costello's daughter. And he goes, I love that Boris was snobby about Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. He didn't want to be in it, but posed for pictures outside the theater.
Yes. No, they found him. They contacted him. They said, yep, can you help us promote this film? And Karloff was in 2 Abbott and Costello. In fact, you ready for this? Karloff was the only actor that performed with all 3 major comedy teams. He was in a silent film with Laurel and Hardy called Pardon Us. He was in Abbott and Costello Meet the Killer, Boris Karloff. Abbott and Costello Meet Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And then on radio, he was on the Martin and Lewis show. So he performed with all three comedy teams.
I tell you, that's why if people only know him from that role in Frankenstein, there is so much more to his, epic career. And of course, how did it come to be, just jump ahead a little bit since people are asking about it, how did it come to be that he got the role as the voice of the Grinch and How the Grinch Stole Christmas? That was so perfect. Great casting.
Well, it was really, it was Chuck Jones. Chuck Jones knew of him. He knew he had done a few voiceovers, which he had done before the Grinch, and wanted him. Dr. Seuss found out about it, and Dr. Seuss also agreed, and his wife too. His wife, Dr. Seuss's wife, thought, "Oh, he's the only one that can do this." So it was just great, and the animation on that. I mean, came out in 1966. I was a little kid, 11 years old. The music and everything, just great. It's a classic, really is a classic. And in the documentary that we do, Sarah recalls about how he finished it. And he called her up and says, because she had two little boys, says, I think the boys should watch what I'm doing on TV this week. I think they'll really like it. And it became the Grinch. And you ready for this? He won the Grammy for it.
That's right.
The soundtrack was put on a record, and he won a Grammy. And he was also nominated for a Tony for The Lark, which was done on Broadway with Julie Harris.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
All incredible stories. You mentioned his broadcast background, being on live television, also being on radio, the show on WNAW, 1100 AM. That was great too, to be having the opportunity to be a part of the broadcasting world early on.
Yeah, the name of the show was Boris Karloff's Treasure Chest.
That's
and
right.
Now here's the thing about the workaholic he was. He did this radio show while he was on Broadway in Peter Pan. So during the day, he would date the radio show, and then at night he would play Peter Pan. And unfortunately, this was not the version with Jean Arthur. It was another version, but like just a few years before. But he was great, and people loved him as Peter Pan and as Mr. Darling in the production too. In fact, there's a great footage of while he was in the show. The Thanksgiving Day parade came about, so he's actually in a float as he's going down Fifth Avenue during that time period. He was in Peter Pan.
Frankenstein itself, that was one of those movies that still stands the test of time. It's like a go-to. It's always a reference point for a lot of people. And of course, Gene Wilder took it on, which was really, really hilarious as well. But what do you think it is about Frankenstein itself that still reigns supreme with so many people? I mean, the cult following that exists for Frankenstein and anything Frankenstein is very strong even today.
Well, if you really go deep into it, which I have, and I don't know if you've ever read the original book, the novel. But to me, Frankenstein was always an amazing story of prejudice. Because if you think about it, it is about a creature that was never given a chance to deal with society strictly because of his appearance. I mean, nowadays we relate it because you're an ethnic or your skin color or whatever, but strictly because of his ugliness, he was not allowed to be with other people. Now, in the film, you'll see the only exception to that was the little girl, because the little girl didn't see the ugliness, didn't see the meanness. So to me, it was a very powerful, and I think Karloff picked up on that too. It was a story about a misunderstood creature that was not given a chance. Now, you're right about how important that story is. It is still being told today. As a matter of fact, in November, Guillermo del Toro is remaking Frankenstein, and it will be out this fall.
Really? That I didn't know. That's exciting, huh?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I had a chance to visit the set. I went to Toronto in May and visited the set while they were making Frankenstein.
Do they already have the people involved, the
Oh,
actors, actresses, all of that? Or are they still
oh,
working on
yeah,
that?
no, it's done. It's done. It's in
Wow,
post production now.
it is
So yeah,
already. Oh, that's
yeah, and I believe you can go online. You can actually see the trailer.
right. Exactly. That's cool. That's
Yeah,
fantastic, huh?
yeah.
Hmm. So Boris Karloff's early years growing up, um, he was born in 1887 at 36 Forest Hill Road in Peckham. His parents, Edward John Pratt of the Indian Civil Service, where he worked for the Salt Revenue Service, and Eliza Sarah Millard. Both his parents passed when he was young, and he was primarily raised by half sister and elder siblings as well, right?
Right, and there was a huge age difference between his oldest brother and him. He was the youngest, but yeah, I think it went back maybe almost 20 years between the age difference. But almost all his father, his grandfather, his brothers, they were all involved with government service. They were hardly around. He didn't really have much of an upbringing with a stern father figure. Things were not that great at home. One brother, believe it or not, was actually accused of murder, which wasn't very happy. His mother was abused mentally and physically, and it wasn't a happy household. So when he had a chance to leave and to start a new life, I think he was not only running towards starting a new life, but I think he was running away from what was happening behind closed doors. And I
How do
think,
you
go ahead.
I was going to say, how do you feel? Do you think he called upon any of those early experiences in his life growing up in terms of the projects he ended up working on, the horror genre and lots of other things that he understood maybe a little bit about fear and the human condition, and it groomed him in a way to understand that life isn't always perfect. There are bullies, there's this, there's that. Do you think any of that he might have pulled from within his body of work, the experiences early on growing
Yes,
up?
yes, I do. I mean, there's still the mystery. It hasn't been 100% confirmed, but I believe he came from mixed blood, Indian blood and British blood, because he always had that dark complexion. I mean, he used to laugh and say he got it by sitting by the pool waiting for the phone to ring. But yeah, so he was bullied as a child. He was ostracized, and if you look at some school pictures, I mean, everybody else is lily white, and he is not. He has this dark complexion. So in a way, it helped him because in movies he then end up playing the villain or the bad guy or the heavy. But I'm sure down deep he really knew what it felt like to be alone and to be ostracized. And I think he took that and used that in some of the roles that he did.
It's interesting too. I think I saw something recently, a clip when when the word horror for horror movies was being introduced as the genre for some of these movies. Um, Something about the way he described it was appreciation of the word, but at the same time it wasn't something where we wanted to create these films to drive people away. We want to tell these stories that bring them in. Do you remember him saying something to that effect about
Oh,
when the
sure.
word horror was describing the genre?
Right. Yeah. No, I think he was a very avid linguist, and he believed that the word horror was repulsive. He thought maybe the word terror or even thriller would be a better word to describe it. But he had nothing to do with it. I mean, believe it or not, before Dracula and Frankenstein, there never was a horror category. In fact, I remember as a kid looking up movies, they would describe them as melodramas. And then later on, it became the horror category, the H category. And then after a while, even movie distributors didn't want to make horror films anymore. So for a few years, he didn't make horror films, but because of his career, he was able to go do Broadway and do other things, and then come back and do mystery. I mean, he did a series of mysteries, playing an Asian detective, like a Charlie Chan or Mr. Moto. So he did that for several years. Then he came back and did Mad Doctors, which again weren't necessarily horror films, but just mad, doctors that wanted to benefit society, but somehow got a little strange along the way. But no, you're absolutely right. He did not care very much for the word horror.
Exactly. Again, he's touched our lives in so many different ways and called upon in so many different ways too, in an extraordinary way. You know, the other thing too is the fact that he's touched upon so many aspects of the industry, from, you know, film and stage and television, and like you say, even with music as well. It's extraordinary. His body of work really touches upon all the different aspects of the arts. When you take a look at all of it sort of categorized, you're like, my God, I forgot he did this and he was in this, he was a part of this, he helped create that, and it's extraordinary, right?
Well, his career rose as Hollywood rose. I mean, he was there at the perfect time, where people, you know, had variety shows or radio shows, and they said, hey, let's get Karloff. And again, he would say yes. Or the same thing with television or something like that. You know, let's get Karloff. So again, he was game to do it. And of course, once you do one or two and people like you and you get laughs and whatever, you know, you just keep getting offered that. So that's what he would do. So yeah, so he came up at a time where things were evolving as an entertainment industry, and he evolved with it. I don't know whether today it would work the same, but, you know, those days are gone. It would be nice if somebody could bring it back. Maybe you and I can do that, Jim.
What would you like to do? Who's on first? Or
we have a variety show. No, we have a variety show. We bring people on and they do stuff.
Well, you know, speaking of variety in Borscht Belt and Catskills, I wanted to mention too, as much as we are celebrating the incredible Boris Karloff, and also, of course, this extraordinary documentary, Boris Karloff, The Man Behind the Monster. We're talking Frankenstein. And of course, we threw in the Grinch and everything else. And celebrating the iconic Boris Karloff. And hopefully we'll welcome Sarah to the show as well. It'll be a delight to have her here as well. You yourself are not only a historian of all of these things that we're talking about, you're a performer, a writer, producer, stand-up comedian yourself. You've been making people laugh for years. You love the good old Catskills. Do you love the Poconos too?
Well,
or
you know,
remember the good old Poconos?
I've always loved history. And of course, entertainment history is great.
And that's
so
you,
I've
right?
Had a chance to, yep, that's me as a young
good-looking guy there.
Old.
Yeah, you look like you should be on an album cover. You should be on an album cover.
Well, that's my DVD cover. So
that's
yeah,
right.
so that's now on DVD. This first season, the first 10 episodes.
Tell us about it.
And well, again, what I did there is, when I was a kid in high school, I had watched all these talk shows, Merv Griffin and Mike Douglas and Johnny Carson, and they'd have all these comedians on. And they'd always say, so where'd you get your start? And they all said, the Catskills. I said, well, I gotta go to the Catskills. I went up there. I worked at Brown's Hotel, and that was the hotel that every year Jerry Lewis came up. I'm a diehard Jerry Lewis fan. Love him.
Hey, lady.
He was so funny. So, hey, lady.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So I taped the show, which was kind of like a pilot, and we shopped that around, and JLTV picked it up. So it's a nationwide TV show, comes every Saturday at 6:00, and we talk all about the mountains. I just got finished editing a show all about boxing and how many huge boxers, heavyweight boxers, from Barney Ross all the way up to Muhammad Ali, would go up to the Catskills and train. They would work out and all that stuff, and then they'd go and play their heavyweight fights. And it's fascinating. So it's great. So it's great to talk about that. I've talked to people like Cousin Brucey, believe it or not. His name is Bruce Meyerowitz, and he started out in the Catskills. I talked to Elaine Grossinger. Her mother was Jenny Grossinger, started Grossingers, and it's been great. So it's great to learn all about. Now, again, you're Connecticut. Now, did you grow up in Connecticut?
No, New York.
Oh, New York. So did
New York, yes.
Did you hear about the Catskills? Did you ever go up there?
Of course. Yeah, we sure did. Oh. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Great. Yeah.
So what hotels do you remember?
Well, when you grow up out east on Long Island, right. we were further out east, not on top of the city. We were further out east. Right. When you grew up on the island, as they say, anything north of New York City, specifically north of the Bronx, is considered going upstate for the weekend. So, but then if you talk to somebody in White Plains or Mamaroneck or Rye, they're like, this is not upstate. Rome, Syracuse, Lake Placid, Buffalo, that's upstate. So the Catskills would be considered going upstate for the weekend or what have you. Yeah. The Borscht Belt. Yeah, exactly. Let folks know, in case they don't know, how it got the name, the Borscht Belt.
Well, borscht, first of all, is a soup that everyone would eat. So, you had the Sun Belt and the Texas Belt, the Bible Belt. So after a while, it became known as the Borscht Belt. And for a period of time, I'm telling you, Jim, it was amazing. From the 1920s to the 1970s, a 50-year period where they just had all these wonderful hotels, unlimited menu, unlimited entertainment. The air was beautiful. It was fresh. It was clean. People went outside. They did stuff. It was just great. And it was a wonderful period. And I worked up there from 1973 to 1976 at Brown's Hotel. And it was wonderful. I really learned so much and met so many people. And I saw so many of the, Henny Youngman and Don Rickles and Alan King. And just great. It was a great learning ground. And I learned a lot of stuff.
You absolutely are working with some of the other icons in the business. Really fantastic. Are you still performing, still doing stand-up, still appearing?
Well, I'm doing the show in conjunction with the Catskill Borscht Belt Museum. So what they have up there, it's the last weekend of July. It's called the Borscht Belt Festival. And I was up last year and hosted a variety show, and I'll be up again. So I will be up there Sunday, June 27th. The museum is in Ellenville, New York. It's right off of 17. And it's a 3-day weekend, the last weekend of July. And it's great. I mean, they have so many different speakers and people. They talk about their experiences in the hotels. And the museum is there. And they have some great things about the museum as well. And you can buy my DVD of Remembering the Catskills. So, so it's a great place. And I don't know what you're doing in July, but it would be great to have you come up there.
Show us the other two for Boris Karloff. You have that one there with you too.
Yes. And again now, but I think you can also see this on Shudder or Tubi, or you can go again to Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Amazon for this one, which is, again, either DVD or Blu-ray, or for the Catskills one, and they're all on there.
How cool. You love history. You love, classic movies, classic TV, all of it, music, which I think is fantastic. And you're keeping it alive. And what's cool about it, Ron, is you're also introducing these things to younger generations who maybe didn't know anything about the Catskills in upstate New York, or anything about Boris Karloff. They've heard about Frankenstein. Maybe they even saw the movie, but didn't know anything about the man behind the monster, and some of these iconic figures. And it's terrific. I'm sure you hear from all kinds of people who've seen the documentary, but who've also enjoyed your work as well. And it must, fill your cup when you hear people express the fact that they love that you're keeping all of this goodness alive.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very lucky. The only sad part for me is I can understand if a younger generation, they don't know Boris Karloff. They don't know Laurel and Hardy or Abbott and Costello. But when I meet young people and they have no clue who Jerry Lewis was or Johnny Carson, even once in a while.
Or Jackie Gleason.
Or Jackie Gleason. I mean, even when people pause about Frank Sinatra, I go, are you serious? I mean, these people were major, major stars during my lifetime growing up.
Don't even mention it. Don't even mention Ernie Kovacs.
Wow.
You'll get a blank stare with a lot of people.
But I can understand that. Now, I know him and you know him, but no, I can understand other people that would not know. But yeah, Jackie Gleason, Phil Silvers, just people that were Mickey Rooney. I mean, just people that were so important during the 60s and 70s when I grew up, and television was so important. And so many wonderful TV shows. And of course, it was the year or the era of the variety show. and just great variety shows. And it was great to see actors doing stupid skits or people coming on and singing songs and that. Those days are gone.
That's right. Donnie and Marie and Sonny and Cher and the Carol Burnett show
Yeah.
and Andy Williams. I mean, just
Oh,
everything. The Osmonds, everybody had a show, which is
oh yeah.
extraordinary. You know, with going back to Boris Karloff a little bit, just some of the
Uh-huh.
incredible things that he's known for. And we welcome everybody who's watching around the world. I'm Jim Masters, your host. This is the Jim Masters Show, Entertainment Lifestyle Celebrity Talk Show series. Our very special guest, Ron MacCloskey, is here and coming to us from the New York area in New Jersey, celebrating Boris Karloff and so much more, even talking about the Grinch, talking about the Catskills. We've got everything here on this episode of the Jim Masters Show. He's a brilliant writer and producer and author and stand-up comedian and performer, so much more. Black Sabbath was another one that was a great one for Boris, huh?
Yeah, I tried so hard to get the band Black Sabbath and the movie connected somehow, but it really didn't. It just they were forming a group. They looked outside. They saw a line was around the block for this movie called Black Sabbath. They say, let's use that, and that's it. They never met Karloff, never knew about horror film. I mean,
Is that where that name
they
came
got a little
from?
kinky, but yeah, no, they actually took it from the Boris Karloff film. Yes,
That I
yes.
never knew. That part I never
And you ready?
knew. Wow.
Now you ready for this? Steven Tyler. Remember the Steven Tyler song "Walk This Way"?
Aerosmith, yes.
Walk this way, baby, walk. Well, that came from Young Frankenstein. When Victor Frankenstein meets Igor for the first time, and he says, "Walk this way," and he has him bent over, and of course Gene Wilder looks in the camera like, "I'm not going to walk this way." That was from Young Frankenstein. So it's interesting how these things affect other things.
It's interesting learning how a lot of these things, sort of play off each other. And a lot of times now today, you end up, if you watch TV commercials, things of that nature, you will hear music that is coming from these time periods, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, that will be clips of actual real songs that are being used instead of production music for medications and whatever that commercial is. Right. It's amazing how a lot of this pop culture bleeds into our lives continually, right?
Yeah, no, it's what they say is, everything old is new again. So they do. It's great to hear some of these rock songs that are so beautiful and so great. And, they're used on commercials, but it's just nice to close your eyes and to hear that music again.
Also, here's another great shot of Boris.
Yeah, that's from The Body Snatcher. That also had Bela Lugosi. Lugosi, had a very small role in that, but they just felt it would be better for the marquee to get more people to see the film. But like I said, he was wonderful in that. He really was.
That's another great. He just
That's from the Abbott and Costello film.
Yes.
Abbott and Costello Meet the Killer, Boris Karloff. Yep. And he played like a Hindu guy. So he
had it in.
I'll tell you what, you got to see him in I think it's called The Night of the Iguana. It's the one with in Wild Wild West.
Oh yes,
which is interesting because he plays a guy from India. So here with the Indian blood, and he's playing an Indian, and he was in Wild Wild West.
It's amazing. It's amazing when you think about it too, because like I said, he was in basically almost everything of the time. And he had not only a fabulous voice, but also what he could do with his eyes, the look. I mean, obviously transforming into Frankenstein, but just generally, he had a certain look that would stop traffic. Even in his later years, he just, there he looks a little bit more grandfatherly, a little bit maybe warmer, maybe here he looks like he's the chairman of the bank or something, but still the look was always there. And just really, it's very cool stuff.
He was one of those guys that could get away with a mustache. Not everybody could grow a mustache and look good.
Right.
Boris Karloff could. Clark Gable could.
Even at a younger
once
age.
in a while,
Yeah.
James Cagney. Yeah, once in a while, James Cagney do a mustache, and it wasn't good at all. But Karloff looked good in the mustache.
Have you ever tried one?
Yes. Yep.
You have.
On occasion. Yep. On occasion, I did. Yeah.
We dug, but we couldn't find that photo, Ron. that one's under
this
wraps.
has been great, Jim. I love talking to you here. This is wonderful. Listen, I got to tell you. Another nugget you may not know about. I grew up in Westfield, New Jersey, and Westfield, New Jersey also happens to be the same hometown as cartoonist Charles Addams, who created the Addams Family. So I am behind a huge event called the Addams Fest, and in October we pay tribute to Charles Addams and the Addams Family.
You know, I think I saw somewhere there was a photo with you and John Astin, right?
Yeah.
John Astin.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's fantastic. Did you get a chance to meet some of the other cast who were around?
The only other person I got a chance to meet before she died was Lisa Loring, who played Wednesday. So Lisa Loring and John Astin are the only two that I had a chance to meet. Oh, I'm sorry. No, and Christopher Lloyd. Christopher Lloyd, I had a chance to meet a couple years.
On the other, the sister show to the Addams Family, The Munsters, we recently had Butch Patrick on, and he was fantastic.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
He's good. Yeah.
Eddie Munster. And, a lot, they embrace these. Sometimes, people don't want to be typecast, or they just walk away from a character, especially when they're a child star. They don't want to have to be only that person that's in that sitcom or something. But it's nice to see that a lot of them embracing, like, we've had the cast, a lot of the Little House on the Prairie cast on, and they're going through their 50th anniversary. And they're soaking it all up, and they're loving talking to the fans, and it's great to see all that, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it really is. It really, because again, a lot of these people, they just never knew that they could interact with these people. Most of these, most of the shows and everything was done on the West Coast. They never came out here, never did anything. But then over years, it has evolved, and there's more and more chances for you to meet people you grew up with and people that you watched on TV.
Now, you celebrate the Catskills, but have you done Atlantic City and Vegas too over the years? Did you touch base in those areas performing as well?
Atlantic City, yes. Las Vegas, no. But I would still like to go out there because, it's just a great place to perform. But I was so happy when Atlantic City opened because it meant that performers, were now coming to the East Coast, and you could go watch people again like Sinatra and Jerry Lewis and Stephen Eady and Don Rickles and whatever. So no, that was great. And then with Foxwood and Mohegan Sun, you can do the same thing now.
Are they on your radar? Are you looking to go there and perform at Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun?
Yes,
they are tremendous. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I have a game show that I developed, and I'm trying to.
That's right. Tell us about that. Yes, tell us about that. Okay. I don't want to forget that. Yeah.
No. That I developed several years ago. It's an original game show. It's a game show and a horse race. I have people physically standing on a track. I ask them multiple choice questions. The audience is allowed and encouraged to yell out answers. You'd think, well, that's the easiest thing in the world, but not always. You still have to think. What is the right answer?
Right.
So, So I come up with that and whatever. In fact, I will ask you a question I just created today. You ready?
Sure.
In 1967, which show won the Emmy for Outstanding Comedy Series? Here are your choices. You ready? Bewitched, Get Smart, or The Monkees? Who won the Emmy in 1967 for Outstanding Comedy? Bewitched, Get Smart, or The Monkees?
Was it Get Smart?
Nope.
Wasn't, huh? Bewitched?
Nope.
The Monkees, really?
The Monkees won the,
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. In fact, Mickey Dolenz, has Mickey been on your show?
No, would love to get him.
Oh, yeah. So. He's still out there. He's still doing stuff. But yeah, the monkey, it surprised me. So I said, that's a good question.
Now, did you know, here's a little more trivia about the Monkees. Okay. The background singers that were used for the Monkees, the Partridge Family, Lots of jingles, radio station and
Right.
TV show and network jingles,
Right.
tons of commercials,
Uh-huh.
and also, what's the other? Oh, Love American Style. They did a lot of theme songs
Right.
and
Okay.
so much more. And at one time, when Ray Conniff wanted to create a little bit more contemporary sound with his singers for the Ray Conniff Singers and Orchestra,
Right.
he brought
Right.
these specific singers in, who are the same ones for the Monkees, the Partridge Family, all the rest, the Ron Hicklin
Right.
Singers. Have you heard of the Ron Hicklin
Now,
Singers?
that name I don't know.
Yes. The Ron Hicklin
Ray Karloff I know, but
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Wow.
The
Okay.
Ron
Now I
Hicklin
know one of the
Singers were the
songwriters.
singers of the day, and they did all of that background singing for all those shows and
Wow.
commercials and themes and Ray Conniff, and it's
Right.
unbelievable. Yeah.
Right. Well, I know that one of the songwriters for the Monkees was Neil Diamond, right?
I believe, yeah. I
Yeah.
believe I know.
I think he wrote one or two of their songs.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Paul Williams was prolific too with writing so much music of
Oh,
the day
oh
during
yeah.
that time.
Oh
For
boy.
the Carpenters and so
Yeah.
much more television. Alan Thicke, another who wrote so many
Yep.
TV theme songs, as well as being a great actor that we
Yep.
lost too early. Really incredible. So you're enjoying carrying that torch, and I tell you, this, I have to say it again, this was beautifully done. This is, very well received. It's one of the definitive documentaries on his life. I've seen other things, but it's just
Right.
it wasn't always easy, right? His situation wasn't always easy, but he made the best of every situation. Boris Karloff, right?
Right. Well, I had a desire to do this for two reasons. Number one, there were so many documentaries, like things like biography, where to me biography was just a cookie cutter. You
Right.
play the beginning, then you play the career, and then you play the downfall, and just over and over and over again. And my other thing is, don't talk about a subject without showing the work. If you're going
Right.
to talk about Body Snatcher, then show a clip from that film.
Right.
So that was I wanted to stress in this documentary.
And you guys do.
Show the work. Yeah.
You
Show the
do.
work.
So much incredible vintage footage that you were able to, and there's all, there's copyright and licensing. There's all these things in order to be able to do that, which is a whole other, it takes a lot to put these kinds of things together like a documentary. There's all of that involved, but to be able to do it, you guys pulled it off. And again, really, really well done. And a labor of love. Would you consider it one of your great things in the career that you're very proud of the many things?
Oh, no, absolutely. I've been lucky. I've had a chance to do several things. And really, in my life, I only wanted to make two documentaries. I'm not considered a filmmaker. I just wanted to do two documentaries. One was Karloff, so that's done. And the other one, and I mentioned this before, I don't know how you feel about him, but is Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis was the last of a kind. He accomplished and achieved so much in his lifetime. Now, he was the opposite of Karloff, where a lot of people did not like him. A lot of people did not get along with him. And in my opinion, he was a true Jekyll and Hyde. If he wants to be funny, there's nobody funnier than Jerry Lewis. But he could also be mean and cutting and hurtful. So I think that's a great subject for a documentary, to show how powerful and big this man was, but also cut off people in his life, including, unfortunately, his own family.
Exactly. That's going to be fascinating and riveting to see that. Have you started working on that already?
Well, I've been trying. I wrote a tribute show to him about 10 years ago. I interviewed some great people, and he's a controversial figure, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do. But
So
again,
many
I don't
people
know how
are
you
gone
feel about
too.
him. But
Like Sammy
most people are not on the
Davis
fence with Jerry Lewis.
Yeah.
Either they love Jerry Lewis or they hate
Or they
Jerry
didn't.
Lewis.
And so many people
there's
have
not too
gone
many
to, like the Sammy Davis
Yeah.
Juniors, the Don Rickles, the
Nope,
Ed McMahons, the
Yeah,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Carsons and all the
Yeah.
others, right?
Yeah.
Dean Martin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Frank Sinatra and on and on and on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter
Yeah.
Lawford, the whole
Yeah.
bit. So you're loving
In
this.
fact,
This
why
is
don't we
fun.
do a show called Why don't we
Yeah.
do a show called Dead People? And just for an hour, we'll just list all people that are dead.
It would take more than an hour. That would just be the intro.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know. There's so many. Life is short. Life is precious. I say it all the
Yeah.
time. And,
Yeah.
if
Yep.
you love these folks and even the folks in your own life, cherish them because
Yes.
none of this, there's no extended warranties on life. Maybe
Yes.
cars,
Right.
but not on life. So
Right. Right.
you gotta laugh, right? I say that all the time. I
Absolutely.
love making people laugh. I love to look for the dry, quick-witted humor in things, observation, of what's going on. Observational humor to me is big, and playing off that. And you love doing it too, right? You like making people smile, making people laugh, Ron.
Well, the two people that make me laugh is Weber, who happens to be 2 years old, and Leo, who's 4 years old, and they're my grandsons. And I just
Oh.
love them. Oh, they're so
Are
innocent.
they characters? Do you see
Oh,
them?
well, Leo takes a broom and makes it a guitar and starts playing the
What a great idea.
and his brother, when you're a kid, you just follow whatever your older brother does, you do, and
That's right.
they're just delightful.
As are you, Ron MacCloskey from New Jersey.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brilliant award-winning writer, producer, stand-up comedian, historian, all of it. And he's here on the show talking about the incomparable Boris Karloff, but also about his own illustrious career in comedy and writing and producing and at the Catskills and everywhere else. And again, those DVDs are available. Make sure you check them out, and we'll show you on the screen. Couple of things here. Well, first, of course, this one. Boom.
Yeah.
Good looking guy. That is Ron right there on the cover there. And the other one you have right there. Show us the other one. I like when the guest holds it up. You got it there, right? The Boris Karloff.
Oh yeah. Sure. Yep. I don't want to do it. With the lights. Yeah.
Now, are those also like on Amazon and places like that too? People can get them.
Amazon, Walmart, Barnes and Noble, and now this one's special. This one is the what we call the special edition. This is Blu-ray, but it's got 2 DVDs because again, his life was so amazing, Jim. We couldn't fit everything in 98 minutes. So the second one is all the interviews we couldn't put in because there was just so much to talk about. So we go in much more depth with Stephanie Powers. We also talked to some great actresses that worked with him. So Lee Grant, I don't know if you're familiar with Lee Grant, but Lee Grant was in a wonderful television film, television program with him, as well as Christopher Plummer. And we even had a chance to interview a little boy who was a little boy at the time in Peter Pan and play with with Karloff on Broadway. Yeah. So that second DVD. So again, this is a special limited edition, and it's really worth the price.
That's amazing. Ron, a real pleasure chatting with you here on the Jim Masters Show series. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for reaching out and wanting to come on the show. You were familiar with our show. I know you've watched some of the other special celebrity guests on our show, and I really appreciate your support and spreading the word. And I hope the show met whatever expectations you had, and you enjoyed the time with me as much as I had with you, Ron. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, listen, I would also like to keep in touch because I think there's a lot of things we have in common and we live close enough. So it'd be nice to get together.
That's right. We're right here in the greater New York tri-state area. A pleasure, Ron. Come see us again. And I hope it was a blast for you because it certainly was for us.
No, it was great. Thank you so much. It's just great. It's great to meet a fellow entertainer, person in the business, but also understands the business, and knows the history. And can bring up names that, again, not everyone knows, but people like we know, like Ray Conniff and all these other things, and the Monkees. It's just great.
Appreciate that. And Merlin in Canada says it was great learning about your passion for Boris and other artists. I knew the older actors; they were so talented. And she's in Canada. Kathleen in New York City. Thanks, Ron, for being here. Very interesting and fun conversation. Wishing you continued success. Take care. And And Maureen in Arizona, some of our real faithful JMS fans in our chat room saying, this was a fabulous conversation. Ron, you really know your stuff. And I thank you so much for sharing your wonderful stories of Boris. So some good stuff from some of the viewers that are watching from all over the country and around the world. We really appreciate it, and appreciate all of those viewers and their comments. Ron, you be well. Come see us again. Spread the word about our show. This will be archived on our YouTube channel, so you can share the link on your social media if anybody missed it live. We are coming at you live right now, and a pleasure. And keep keep that baton and keep that flame out there for all of these legends, and keep doing what you're doing. And when you're performing again, in the tri-state area, let me know. Love to come see you.
I will.
I'll sit in the front row and I'll clap, I'll laugh, I'll cheer.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's it, right?
I need that.
Masters and MacCloskey, Inc.
Yes, I like that. Or Masters and Mac. We'll keep it short.
Yeah, I like that. Eminem.
Masters and Mac.
That's it.
Eminem.
All right, my friend. Thanks for stopping by. Really a terrific conversation.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for your generosity of time as well. Really appreciate it.
Sure. You are welcome.
All right. We'll see you soon.
All right.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Terrific to have him on the show as we celebrate Boris Karloff. And again, he is responsible, along with Thomas Hamilton and a team of people, for this extraordinary documentary that you can see and watch and enjoy. Boris Karloff, the man behind the monster. And we talk not just about Frankenstein, of course, which he's so known for, and they're getting the makeup on to turn into this, but also all the other incredible shows and movies and epic celebrations he's been a part of, even the talk shows, the game shows. I mean, he was on everything. And now you'll look for him on some of your favorite shows of the past. He was just really an iconic person. And it was our pleasure here at the Jim Masters Show to bring back a name from the past that has really left an indelible mark in our lives with all of these incredible things. Boris Karloff, remembering him, not just from Frankenstein, but everything else. And also having Ron MacCloskey, the brilliant stand-up comedian and historian, writer, and producer, joining us as well. There he is. He's been doing it for many, many years, performing on some of the great stages, singing and making people laugh, and joining us here on the Jim Masters Show. Glad you guys enjoyed it. Thanks so much. Thanks to all the great folks who are commenting. Don't forget, we are archiving this episode so you can see it again on the YouTube channel. We would love it if you give this episode a thumbs up like. There's a like icon on the YouTube channel. Click thumbs up. We would love that. That lets us know you're enjoying this episode. Share a comment below in the comments section, right below the episode. What'd you enjoy about this? What's your favorite Boris Karloff movie or something else he's been in? Share this link on your social media. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is Jim Masters TV, which is the home to JMS, the Jim Masters Show. For all of us here, I am your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time, this time till next time. Jane is watching from Sweden and says, thanks, Ron, for being here tonight. This was awesome, interesting, and a fun show. Thanks, Jim. Thank you to Jane in Sweden as well, and everybody watching around the world live and watching this Memorex, which means, for those of you, the cassette tape, that used to be their slogan, Memorex cassette tape was, is it live or is it Memorex? So in this case, Memorex would be recorded. Thanks for being with us. Don't forget to take care of one another, love one another. Don't forget to do the very same for yourself. And stop by Lovely Hall and see us again right here at the Jim Masters Show. We love having you here. Sue Prov says, good night. You as well. Thanks for joining us, Sue. Always good to see everybody. We love having you with us. It's one big family here at the Jim Masters Show, and you are a vital and valued part of it. Come see us again. Spread the word. We'll see you on the next one. Be well, everybody. And cheers.